He is one of the climate, environmental, and planet researcher. Mr. George, welcome to Millennium 24.
Thank you, Noor. It's nice to be back with you.
How are you? How is everything going on?
I think things are going well enough. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Very good. Listen, you see disaster in our Kansas, Kentucky, Illinois, Arizona, not Arizona, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Our weather center, what is their job? Our federal government, what is their job? Our state government, what is their job? Why so many people have to be die for a tornado? Could you tell our viewers what is going on this planet? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, Noor, while the problem is technological, we have to do a lot to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, sequester carbon. There's many fixes that we need to do over these next years and decades. The phase we're at now is political. And so the idea is like the reason we're not doing what we need to do is because we have here in the United States and throughout the world, there are people who have a lot of money who use their wealth to basically buy our politicians. They invest in their political campaigns. They help them to get elected and then reelected. And then what happens because of this system of allowing money in our politics, these politicians are doing the bidding of their donors who don't want climate change action because it'll cost them money, the coal industry, the fossil fuel industries. So that's one of the major problems we need to address before we can do anything else about climate change.
Very good. So who gonna be responsible for these people die on disaster? Not our government?
Well, certainly. I mean, we have to hold our politicians responsible. Right now, they're escaping responsibility, and I'm not sure what can be done about that. But there's another component to this that basically many people aren't worried about climate change because they've been disinformed, misinformed. These same, industries, fossil fuels that finance politicians who are stopping us from fighting climate change. These same people are paying companies, media companies, Fox News, they pay them to confuse the people, to have people think, well, maybe climate change isn't that bad. Maybe it's not really, maybe the scientists are lying to us. So that's the other component, yes, these people are accountable. Noor, I'm not sure what we can do to hold them accountable, except I guess, just through public action.
You are right, but one thing, no reason, these people have to be die. Hundreds of people die. One block, 7 young kids die. What do you think? For what? Who did the mistake? Why we don't wake up the people? Why is not coming on the weather channel? Why not, people not announced by radio, TV, so many way these days on social network, and those 4-5 state, so many house destroy, thousands of house destroy, business destroy, school, church, everything destroy. So what is going on in America these days?
Right, and like what is going on is like essentially nothing that's enough, that's near enough, and that's I've come on your newscast a couple of times already to describe this strategy that I believe can level the playing field. In other words, like if we are being stopped from fighting climate change by people and corporations who use their money to buy our politicians, that's what we need to do also. For example, if they give a politician $1 million to finance their campaign, and we give our politician $2 million and we win, all of a sudden that's how we do it. So the idea behind climate rescue capitalism that I've explained before is like we need to democratize shopping for products. We go to a supermarket, we can spend $100 on whatever products we buy. Today, that money is going to those rich corporations, those rich people who are stopping us from fighting climate change. We have to compete against them. We have to, if you see on that shelf, there's some Paul Newman's products up there. Paul Newman has been running a company since 1982 that donates all of its profits from the sale of those products to charities. They've generated over $500 million in this way. So we have to democratize our shopping. When we go into supermarkets, we don't want to buy from Campbell's and from Kraft and from these companies that are part of the establishment that are preventing us from fighting climate change. We need to create new companies, create new products, market the new products. That way, when we spend $100 in shopping, for our weekly food, whatever, that the money is not going to the people who are buying our politicians. The money is going to efforts to fight climate change. Again, it's like this is all about money. The politician, and we need to fix the system. Naturally, like over the next 10 years, hopefully, we can get money out of politics. But until we do that, money is the theater on which this is all taking place. And so we have to generate vastly more finances, more funds to control our political system than the opposition. And basically creating these companies that allow us to use the money from the products we buy to finance the fight against climate change, to get politicians in there that will do the right thing. That, I believe, is a strategy that we need to all come together with and move forward on.
You bring the political finance, election finance. This is good point. But America independence almost 250 years. And all the times since George Washington to as of today, they are talking about no finance on politics. Always politicians say that. But end of the day, they start taking money, getting money. This is the way their business. Do you think from America, American corporation, American bank, American Wall Street, they're going to stop the finance politician? What do you think?
No, they're not going to stop financing our politicians anytime soon. And that's why we have to compete against them. Like these corporations, they're buying our politicians, they're giving them money. So the way to stop that dynamic, the way to prevent them, because our politicians aren't going to change the laws while they're still receiving money from them, is to compete with them, to basically, if they can buy our politicians, we can buy them back. And again, we have to understand and very, very strongly appreciate that the way that these corporations and rich people get the money that they need to buy our politicians is through marketing products, selling us products. So that's what we have to do. If they can generate hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of money in this way to buy our elections, to buy our politicians, we can do the same thing to buy them back. We can it's throughout whatever product category we want. If we can create products that are the same price, equal value as the products that are out there, and we tell the public, listen, you buy these products and we will use this money to get the money out of politics. We will use the sales, the profits from the sale of this product to basically level the playing field. And then naturally, we have to tell the public, the buying public, that once we do that, then we can tackle climate change, then we can tackle education, then we can tackle poverty, then we can tackle healthcare. But it all is It's all about, at this point, the money, and so we have to compete with them. They're not going to do it on their own, but we as a global public can create these new companies. The corporations aren't going to do this. They're using their money to stop us from fighting climate change. We have to create new corporations, new companies that'll sell us products and then use 100% of the profit from those sales to counteract and defeat those corporations.
I'm gonna bring, you are on the politician line today. I'm gonna bring American renewable energy, electrical energy, driving a car, train, all what is called big Boeing and so many things. But our government do not make any industry in America for that. Why they don't do that? What reason? And we have two senators. They are Democrat, but they always against Democrat bill. And they have a energy industry their state for making and destroying the world. Those energy have to be stopped, fossil fuel. If not, our America neighborhood cities is going to be destroyed. What do you think?
Yeah, and more, it's the same problem, whether it's the fossil fuel industry or the transportation industry, the airline industry. They all do the same thing. The reason that Manchin and the other senator are not going along with it is because these industries are paying them not to. So imagine, let's say we started creating these companies and selling products and generating really hundreds of millions of dollars to buy back our politicians. Then we give Manchin twice, three times as much as the other side has given them to do the right thing. Or we say to them, listen, if you don't start doing the right thing, next election, because they're elected every 2 years, next election, we're going to be financing a primary campaign against you so that you don't get to run for office again because you will be defeated, in the Democratic primaries. So that is the answer. The answer is like to intimidate these politicians by either, financing opponents that will defeat them and move them out of office, or to simply give them the money that will allow them to listen to us rather than these corporations.
Congress is for 2 years, but Senate is for 6 years. Okay, Senate, those senator, Arizona and West Virginia, they are destroying democratic field. They are destroying American planet. They are destroying all human being. But our Democrat leader, majority leaders, speakers, they cannot do anything.
I think they can. You're right. So like the Senate's every 6 years. So like, I'm not sure when they're up for re-election, but think about this. People who have such low morals, such a lacking moral compass that they can like neglect to do these serious tasks that need to be done on behalf of the future, on behalf of the planet, I would guarantee you that they are doing other immoral and perhaps probably criminal acts in other ways. So basically, I think we could investigate them and basically find evidence against them, of criminal acts, because, through the IRS, through various FBI, and then approach them, listen, you either start doing the right thing or we begin prosecution against you for this and for that and for the other. So like they are not protected, from a lot of these crimes that they're probably doing. Again, people who don't have enough morals to do the right thing on climate change are probably doing things wrong in other ways. And so we should be attacking them on those fronts also.
You are right. Our peoples, our voter, they have a voice. they have to wake up. If they do not wake up, they are destroying their future generation. You know, their grandson, grandchildren, or their children's reason. Those politicians who make America not a stable country, peaceful country, they try to destroy the whole American people. American voter have to be wake up and send them home. What do you think?
Yeah, and Sid, again, it's like, yeah, they're not doing the will of the people. They need to begin. Now, if we go back several decades, the world was doing, at least here in the United States, not other parts of the world, unfortunately, but enough people in enough parts of the world over the last several decades were doing well enough that they could allow these politicians to continue their criminal acts, to continue to ignore these problems. With climate change, and now with the January 6th insurrection, it's a different equation. That the Republican Party, who basically is the army of keeping money in politics. I mean, the Democrats are not that great on this either, but it's basically the Republican Party that's doing this. They attacked our Capitol building. They threatened our democracy. If Trump is allowed to get away with this, we won't have a democracy. And so now, between the threat of Trump and climate change, we can no longer afford the complacency that has characterized the previous decades, the 80s, 90s, 2000s. We've gotten to a point in our planet that inaction is no longer tenable. We have to act. And so, yes, a part of this, is to force our politicians to clamp down on disinformation. Fox News, other news organizations routinely mislead the people. This January 6th insurrection was because these websites and news organizations were lying to the people, saying that the 2020 election was stolen when it wasn't. We need to create really very strong, serious laws against that, and to seriously punish the owners of these corporations, the CEOs, the chairmen of the board that are allowing this to happen. Once we start making these people accountable for the lies that they make, then the people can finally understand the truths that they need to understand. That way they'll be mobilized to become politically active, to create these companies that I'm suggesting, so that as shoppers we can finance our political initiatives through that means. So yeah, the idea is yes, in the past they could get away with it because the situation wasn't all that dire. That's no longer the case. We have to make, and you'll see this. I believe you'll see this over this next year. People are going to begin to understand how serious this January 6th insurrection is, and how powerful response is necessary, so that we make sure not only that it doesn't ever happen again, but that we get the money out of politics, that we stop the disinformation, so we can go on to do many other very important things.
Listen, you are right, but one thing. If Wall Street do not stop to finance lobbyist, politician, never gonna be gone this illegal crime. You bring the January 6. January 6, if American people, American politicians, they told the world, forget it. Why have to be forget? Whole world have a record. Whole world media have a record. Public have a record that day what's happened in our capital city. Few senator involved, few congressmen and women involved. So our speaker, House Majority Leader, FBI Director, Cyber Crime Director, what they are doing, national security, what they are doing, why they do not get the punished. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, look, if reason prevailed, Donald Trump would have been jailed, the day that Biden took office, for what he did in January 11th. The person who does that, with the information that he knows after having been president, the secrets he knows, is a clear and present danger going forward. So yes, they should have done that. Now, my guess is, my hope is that the Democratic Party understands that that's just part of what needs to be done. So it may be that they're delaying this process so that both in the 2022 midterm elections and then in the 2024 presidential elections, the world of voters, American voters, can be reminded of January 6th. They can be reminded of how eventually Trump did get imprisoned, and Meadows was imprisoned, and Bannon was imprisoned. So from that perspective, then I believe we can begin to tackle these problems. But again, my guess is the strategy is to hold off on major actions until, let's say, October of this coming year, or perhaps September, so that people are reminded, and it's on their minds, of how terrible Trump and the Republicans have been, and how we have no choice but to change our political system so that it never happens again.
Madam, he bring his hearing date over 600-page document, and January 6, investigator, they found so many legal document they looking for. They found January 6 involved so many our trooper, so many army servicemen and women, and so many congressmen and women, so many senators. Okay, but our America is respectable rule of law. We respect the law, but they have to respect the law. We're gonna go another topic. See what is happening in Arctic these days. Arctic is destroyed by Russian government and Russia. They are carrying on oil and gas from Arctic. They destroying all animal in the water. Our world, whole world, we are powerful in the country, in the world also. Why we don't have any voice, and why we do not have anything in the Arctic? You know, what is your idea?
Well, I mean, Russia is a much less rich country than the United States. So, like, if we, who have so much more money than they do, so much more wealth, are refusing to do what we need to do about the Arctic, about climate change, rising sea levels, hurricanes, tornadoes, these problems that climate change causes. If we're not doing what we should be doing, that gives Russia, China, and the other countries license to not do anything anyway. Because like the idea is like they know and we know that unless every country in the world begins to really take serious action, then yes, our future does not look good. Our future, in terms of like sea level rise, which affects so many of the cities of the important cities of the world, are on coastlines. They're on coastlines. So like, some people think, well, if the sea level rise is 2 or 3 inches, that's only 2 or 3 inches. That's 2 or 3 inches is enough to inundate, for example, New York City subway system. 2 or 3 inches is enough to like really require the relocation of millions of people. So basically, yes, Russia's doing their atrocities in the Arctic, but we are also, we're kind of like enabling them to do that by our inaction. And again, that's why this situation has become so dire. We can't afford another 5, 10, 15 years of inaction. And that's actually the reason why I'm optimistic. Again, like with the 4 years of the Trump presidency, where there was so much disinformation, on a daily basis spread, and now this January 6th insurrection, I think the Democrats, the politicians finally understand, and they're going to fight it tooth and nail because, that's what they do. But the Republicans are going to lose, and the Democrats, like Manchin, who are not on board, are going to finally be made to understand. Yes, we need to pass legislation, and we need to be together on this. The threat of the Republican Party and the corporations, just given the issue of climate change, is serious enough that we can't afford, Mansions and people who would rather, basically benefit their personal careers, of doing the bidding of these corporations, then do the right thing. We need to take serious action. And again, I think the key point here is that the situation has gotten so unacceptable, we have no choice but to act and to act strongly.
Hurricane, cyclone, tornado, volcano, everywhere in the world. In America, Hawaii destroying volcano, and New Zealand destroyed by volcano, Indonesia destroyed by volcano. This is not global warming.
Yeah, no, it's probably global warming. Global warming, for example, turns tropical storms that would be less dangerous into hurricanes, and it turns Category 1 hurricanes. It makes hurricanes stronger. It creates these tornadoes in places that otherwise wouldn't have tornadoes. It disrupts our entire ecological system in ways that cause, for example, rising temperatures create conditions that are more conducive to pandemics. In other words, like when the animals are in farms that are much hotter than they would be otherwise, the pathogens, the parasites, the viruses that infect them will multiply and replicate much faster because of the heat. So climate change, yes, because it's warming the climate, because it's changing our climate in various ways. It is affecting us in many of these ways: tornadoes, hurricanes, across the board.
We have a lot of way we stop the fire, like a 100-floor high-rise building. We have fire department. They have all kind of equipment, but on the ocean or on the mountain, when the volcano starts, we don't have anything in the world to stop this.
Well, I'm sure you understand that a lot of the effects of climate change have already been set in motion. In other words, like right now, what we're feeling today is a result of the greenhouse gas accumulation that took place 20, 30 years ago. There's a mechanism, a delay in what happens, and then when we feel the effects. So yes, we're locked into like more hurricanes, more tornadoes, more of these kinds of threats to our ecology, threats to our lifestyle for probably the next 10, 15, 20 years because of what we didn't do 30 years ago. But we have to think ahead. We have to think of our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Just because we can't, completely prevent the damage of the next coming years, doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to minimize it and prepare ourselves. There's a lot we can do, aside from the technical, scientific aspects of fighting climate change, to prepare people, to move people if we need to essentially have the finances, the money that's required to address all these ancillary problems.
George, our world leaders, G7 countries leaders, and whole global world, we have so-called UN. UN not doing anything in the world. African continental, South Asia, Middle Asia, South America, so Central America, so many disasters every single day. But we never hear as a news media UN doing anything, UN say anything. But thanks God, our running White House, they bring the news on the fresh region. They are try to solve the world problem, world leaders. One thing today I see AP, Reuters, BBC, and our Congress passed the Islam Religious Phobia Act. We are American and we are working on the office, industry, factory, so many ways survive our life. Some young lady, Helen Omar from Somalia, you know that. So many Jewish leaders criticize her and taxing her. Right now, religious phobia, they passed the bill yesterday. So do you have any traffic with our Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, Christian leaders, parliament, Congress leaders? They can do for their religious way, they can respect the religious as a human being. We can work together.
Yeah, Noor, for decades, primarily the Republican Party, but Democrats have been doing this also. They've been stoking fears in the public about Islamic terrorism, about like these terrorists across, the planet from us. Basically, that is no longer realistic. I mean, yes, the terrorists pose certain threats in certain specific locales within the world, but the biggest terrorists of the world today, the biggest terrorist organization today is the Republican Party. You have to understand that these Republicans continue to defend Trump even after they saw for themselves his organizing and commandeering this mob that attacked our Capitol, and the corporations who defend the Republican Party, who finance them. These are the real terrorists of the world. These are, people need to be informed that, these other, so-called terrorists, a lot of it's disinformation. A lot of it, they try to get people in the United States to just condemn the entirety of Islam. So no, we have to understand that the real enemy is the people with power and the political parties like the Republican Party that are stopping action on climate change, that are dividing us. They understand that if they get people to be worried about Muslims, to be worried about other religions, to be worried about other problems, or to attack each other, rich versus poor, Democrat versus Republican. If they can basically distract us with these manufactured to a great extent conflicts, then they can escape accountability. So we need to counter that. We need to just focus the world, not just this country, on the fact that no, it's the Republican Party that's terrorizing this planet, Donald Trump. It's these corporations that with their money are terrorizing the planet by buying our politicians and not allowing us to do what we need to do.
Republican leaders, they are not making the noise. Reason, they are power hungry person. If they say anything against Donald Trump, against his follower, they gonna be out from politics. They're gonna out from their neighborhood. They're gonna out from their family. This is the way Donald Trump ran his party. What, you don't see that?
You make an excellent point, Noor. For example, Mark Meadows initially had agreed to cooperate with the January 6th Commission. Then Trump issued a statement saying, well, you better not, because if you do that, we're going to go after you. And basically he intimidated Meadows. So now Meadows refusing. So that is a crime. That's called tampering with an investigation, witness tampering, obstruction, intimidation. So like the first thing that should happen, and this is Trump has already committed the crime. He commits it publicly, so it's not as if we have to find more information. We need to put Trump in jail now, today, to not allow him to intimidate any more witnesses. Because you're right, they're afraid of Trump. They're afraid of his people who issue death threats routinely, to politicians, to people in power. So we basically need to stop Trump from doing that by first imprisoning him, all right? Even while he's awaiting trial on many other things. but like he needs to be in prison and he needs to be prevented from communicating with anyone, perhaps except his lawyers, perhaps until this investigation is resolved.
You are 100% right. Right now we have another news in world leaders like Chinese leaders and Russian leaders. They have a virtual summit in yesterday. They are talking about Ukraine, they are talking about Taiwan. China talking about Taiwan, Russian president talking about Ukraine. Both leaders try to take over both countries. They threaten Western leaders, they threaten NATO if they bring any kind of missile or any kind of heavy armor in Ukrainian border, Russian border, they're going to attack. Both China and Russia attack together. They're going to work together to destroy whole NATO and take over the Ukraine. This is the peace of the world. This is the peace we are looking for. Coming generation, this pandemic, where is this come from? Still our leaders, they don't know. But our researcher, our scientists, of course they knows. They stop the mouth. You know, this politician make this virus. Now they try to destroy humanity. They try to take over the one country is another country. So this is the way world going to be run. What do you think?
Well, yes, I mean, like the leaders, Putin in China, the leaders, I mean, Putin in Russia, the leaders of China, you know, to a great extent, they assumed that power with a lot of money. So they're not just powerful, they're rich. And so, yes, this is a kind of like a kind of like a geopolitical ploy by Putin. And the thing we need to remember is like, no, China and Russia are not going to attack us. We have, you know, basically if that were to happen, you know, they would lose. You know, we have NATO. And so, but the point here is that Biden can very effectively, you know, both address the Ukraine, address this Russian threat, and prosecute Trump and deal with the pandemic. We have a lot of resources. He's one president, but we have so many federal governments, agencies that are able to, like, you know, channel as much money, as much manpower as we need to deal with this. So, like, you know, it would be a false equivalent to say that, well, we can't really address our problems, you know, with Trump and the insurrection and climate change because we have to, like, address the Ukraine. We have to and we must do both.
Thank you, George. Thank you for coming our network. We're going to invite you some other day and other time. Thank you for explain what is going on our planet, what is going on our world. Thank you. Viewers, today's our time is end right now. So please watch Today's America, Millennium News 24/7. We are in on all iOS and Android device. Also, we are on all smart TVs like a Sony, Samsung, LG. Viewers, we are on also all social network, so-called Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Our YouTube address, Channel M24. Our website, Millennium News 24/7. Viewers, our email address, millenniumnews24.com. Whatever you are, stay, peace, love, happiness. Goodbye. Take care for today. George.